Union Nightly Restorative Check-In. I am Marisols and it is an honor to be with you tonight. As always, I want to introduce myself in a way that is honorable to both me and to all those that have poured love and wisdom and challenge into me. So I am the mother of Camerina, Emilia, and Sofia. I am the daughter of Irma and Abraham. I am the grandmother to Isabela Luna and Cynthia Eliana, and I'm the granddaughter of Camerina, Alejandro, Carmen, and Francisco. As I've shared before, every space that I enter with my family. And my voice does not solely belong to me, but it belongs, again, to all of those that have poured love, wisdom, hope, challenge, pain into me. And I believe that all of us carry the dreams and prayers. We are the spoken and the unspoken prayers of our ancestors. But not only that, we carry the spoken and unspoken prayers for our future ancestors. So thank you for allowing me always that time to introduce myself. So we are going to move into our breathing technique. Every night we do 4, 7, 8. So the 4, we inhale for 4 seconds, we hold for 7, and then we release for 8, and we do this 4 times. So again, this was taught to me by Dr. Anjuli Lafauri, and she is actually hosting our show on Fridays. So she will be with you this Friday. I don't know who her guest is, but I know that it's going to be an amazing show. So please make sure to tune in and chat with her. I believe she has her Facebook open, so she's able to connect and see comments. So with that, let's do our breathing technique, and we'll start. Get yourself in a comfortable spot. Close your eyes if that's possible, and we're going to start with our inhale. So we'll start with breathing out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So thank you. When I do the countdown, I like to have a timer because it helps with that spacing, so I know I'm not going too fast, I'm not going too slow. So when you do this on your own, I recommend setting the timer on your watch or on your computer. I usually do 1 minute and 24 seconds. That is way too long for that pattern, but I do that amount of time just so that in case I make any errors or I sidestep, like there's time to make up and it doesn't hit 0 and the alarm doesn't go off. So I encourage you to use the alarm. It really helps set the pace. If at any point you feel that you're losing that breath, or maybe one of them is just way too long, just go back to your normal breathing pattern and then try to go into it again. But doing this a minimum of once a day, that whole pattern, really helps reduce stress, helps you be fully present, and helps us focus. And it also, in the practice of mindfulness, it just prepares us to be really present with whatever it is that we're engaging in. And I really want us to be present for each of our guests that we have coming on. So with that, I would like to introduce our guest for tonight. And our guest is Ryan McKenzie. Ryan is from, I believe he's from Chula Vista, California. I know that that's where he's living, but let's see, have him come on.
Hello.
Hi, Ryan.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. So what I do is I have everybody, if you could please introduce yourself, and you can share anything that you would like. So you can talk about your family, your work, what your passions are, things that you love to do. But if you could introduce yourself for us.
All right, my name's Ryan McKenzie. I'm 34 years old. I was born in Washington, D.C., spent the first 2 or 3 years of my life in Brooklyn, New York, then moved to Chula Vista as my dad was in the Navy. And I've been living in Chula Vista pretty much my entire life. Outside of a few years, I was in East LA County for college. And I've been married, coming up on my 2-year anniversary. We have one 15-year-old daughter. Her name's Kaylee. She's going to be in 11th grade, so I'm starting to feel very distinguished. Right now, I do Uber and Lyft full time, and I'm working on a podcast of my own. I spent, before that, almost 11 years at a real estate law firm in downtown San Diego, but I was laid off in November, actually pre-COVID, and so I've been taking this opportunity to try to work on my own podcast and start up something fresh for my own and not have any type of forced direction on what I want to do on the next stage of my life. So it's been really refreshing. I've been spending a lot of time with my wife and my daughter, and just kind of watching everything fall apart, the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's start. Let me start there. So I consider, when I talk about the show, or I think about it, like part of it is we're talking with our guests about who they are, and then how they are. How they are. So with that, like the world falling apart, the things that are happening, how are you? How is your heart?
You know, if I'm being honest, I sometimes mentally disconnect myself when major world issues directly didn't involve my background. So when big Black issues happen, sometimes I mentally disconnect because it gets to a pain level for me, psychologically and emotionally, that if I let myself dwell in it, I will really dwell in it. And I find that I'm not a functioning person, but I always consume all the data and kind of have a balancing effect in my head where I like to kind of know where I stand and kind of see where the world stands and see where my friends and family stand about everything that's going on. I'm doing good. I'm a very balanced person. I think over things a lot, but I've kind of taught myself over the years not to get angry and let my first reaction to be anger, even though there's a lot of justified outrage and anger and hurt and pain out there. I think I've seen so much good come out of all of this negativity, from the support that has been coming from every angle, from every ethnic background, religion, gender. And that's something that I think it's important to focus on, because it's so easy to dwell on the negative. Because there's a very, very vocal minority, if you look at social media and the news, that rises to the top on both ends. And it kind of represents for everybody. But that silent majority, or that majority of people who don't say anything, I feel like oftentimes are much more moderate. And that's where like real conversations can happen. Restorative conversations can happen where we can make progress and we're not just yelling at each other. But I'm really glad to see the outpouring of love and care that has come from places where I didn't honestly think it would come from. And I'm very, very proud to see that. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done still, obviously, from a governmental standpoint, from a city to city standpoint. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'm glad to see that, we're inching closer, little by little. But I'm doing good. To answer your question, I'm doing good.
So thank you for your honesty. And I think that, I really felt it, like talking about that need to disconnect, and that it has a psychological effect on you. And I think about our kids. I think about specifically our Black and brown kids who are going through this and may not have the words, right? And don't have the words to even recognize the emotion of what it is that they're feeling. And it could just be emotion that they're feeling. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad to know that you're doing well, even with all of everything that's happening. And it also sounds like you have hope.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's not enough hope going around, and it's so easy to focus on, like I said before, all the negative things that are happening and think, there's no faith left in humanity, and there's no way we can change from where we're at. But I'm very much a glass half full person. And I always think there's more good people than bad. And we're always evolving to be smarter people and to be better people. And yeah, there's going to be some racist bigots out there, but I don't think that's the majority of people. I think the overwhelming majority of people just want to live their lives and get along. But it's easy for a lot of people to get pulled to extremes because they don't understand what other people are going through. So I am full of hope, and I always try to spread that. And I think I've been able to change people's minds that you may think are maybe a little bit on the side of bigotry or racism because they don't often understand where other people are coming from. So I've learned that from my grandmother who was born in Panama. So she immigrated to New York from Panama, but still very much so a Black woman, but she had very much a Latin Catholic soul. Spanish was her first language. So when she got to the United States, pre-civil rights, she wasn't accepted by a lot of the Latinos because she had Black skin, and wasn't accepted by a lot of the Black girls because she spoke Spanish. So she had to be very versatile in how she adapted to that situation, and know that sometimes you have to give people a chance to understand you before they'll open up. And so I've always kind of just sit back and wait and listen to people. Even it could be someone who I can clearly see is bigoted in some type of way, because it only takes a couple minutes to show them that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And if they can see a certain side of you that they might have had a stereotype on, you might have a breakthrough. And I think it's important to have breakthroughs with individuals that we wouldn't normally associate ourselves with, because that's how you really, really affect change, because it's not always going to be with anger. Sometimes people will get shocked or, go through trauma, and that will change them, or see trauma, but sometimes that'll make people more indignant and kind of dig their heels in. And I think it's important when we're having these kind of conversations to, present our arguments in a way that are persuasive.
There's a couple things that are going through my mind, and one of those, going back to like your comment a couple of minutes ago, is around, I think that because of our culture being such a sensationalist type of culture, that the things that we're seeing on media are the opposite extremes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why that middle space isn't represented as well, because it's not media sexy. It's not, it's not the thing that that people are like wanting to turn to for entertainment value, I would say.
Right.
The other thing, I think what you're talking about, like you're talking about connecting to humanity. And so like the conversations that you have with people is getting them to understand that there's a shared human experience that we have. And that can connect us. And I think like starting from that basis of connection is where you can start to build out, then like hopefully start to get to those conversations around the racist system that the United States is, and the racist systems of oppression that we have. I think, but first it's getting to that understanding of human connection. So I appreciate that. It's like you're going to the heart by talking to people. Yeah. So there's so much I want to talk about, and I hope we have enough time. But so you have a 15-year-old daughter who's going into 11th grade.
Yes.
So how are you feeling about that? How is that going? And what are you thinking about with school and COVID? Like how how are things going?
Well, I think, and you probably know a little bit about this, the school districts have said that they're going to start with distance learning. So the kids are going to continue at home. And luckily, you know Kaylee, she's pretty studious on her own. I was not like that in high school. My mom literally had to put her foot on my neck to get me to do my homework because I could not do the homework the whole year. And
Is Auntie Diane watching, by the way? Does
I
Auntie
don't know
Diane
if
know
she's
that you're
watching this or not. I don't know.
okay? Tell your wife. Tell your
Is it
wife to
being
text her.
recorded? You guys record
If,
these?
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
it.
think
I'll send it
Auntie
to her.
Diane and I are friends. So I will definitely tag her. I'll tag you in it and Marisol
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
Marisol, your wife, in it, so that she can see. Sorry. Hi, Auntie Diane. I love you. Sorry. So she had her foot on your neck.
Yeah, she had her foot on my neck. And that was the only way I do my homework because I would always, not do my homework, but I would ace the test. So I just kind of she'd have to kind of force me to do it. But Kaylee's always, who actually was also partially raised by my mother. My mother is her grandmother. So she has a very good work ethic when it comes to school, and she self-manages very well. She can procrastinate like any other teenager, but she just ended the last semester with, I think, 4 or 5 A's and a B. So, and I don't have to say, hey, are you doing your homework? She's just in there doing it. Even at home when there's, her phone and video games and social media to be on, she's pretty much taking care of herself. And it's just a weird time. There hasn't been a global pandemic in my lifetime, in most people's lifetime. And so
not in your mom's or your dad's.
Yeah.
Or
so,
your grandmother's.
So I think, the next closest thing would probably be polio. And so people really can't relate to this not going anywhere or doing anything, or no school or no graduation, no prom. That's very, very, it's like we're in kind of almost like a dystopian futuristic thing going on. There's been so many movies about it, but I mean, I think she's doing all right. We're all kind of homebodies here anyway. So it is strange sometimes when I think, oh man, I have a 15-year-old daughter, I'm 34. I met Kaylee's mom when she was only 2 years old. And so almost 3. So I've been the only dad she's had for her pretty much her whole life. And so thinking about that, like in one way I'm like, man, I have a 15-year-old daughter. That is crazy, but I think I've done a pretty good job. And, she's going to graduate in 2 years, and then I'll be 37, 38. I'll be old. I'll be free. Me and Marty can travel and get out of here if our family doesn't force us to have more kids.
Well, and if our passports, if the U.S. passport is ever accepted in another country again,
yeah, that too.
Then you can travel.
Exactly.
So the hardest time, let me think. So I've known you guys, we were just counting. Okay, so I did not know you when Camerina was 15, my oldest daughter. 15 was a hard age. And, Mimi has been challenging my middle daughter just kind of throughout. Sophia, a little bit like coming up towards 15, so like Sophie, coming up, she's a year younger than Kaylee. But just there's been some little sprinkles of things, but the 15th year is hard. Yeah. Have you had any, like with teenage girls, have you guys been good so far?
I think me and Marisol are extremely blessed with Kaylee. Yeah. We get in our little, very normal back and forth. She has her times where she has an attitude and talks back and stuff, but really, I like to keep a level head and perspective on things. I see other 15-year-old teenagers and interact with them in our own family and, on social media and stuff. And I see how a lot of other 15-year-old girls are. And then I say, oh, wow, I'm lucky. I don't deal with any of those issues. Kaylee does have a boyfriend, but her boyfriend's parents are the same age as me and Madi. So they're also young parents. And we're very, very close. They've been to our house. We've been to theirs. We've had dinners all together, and we all are on a level agreement. I respect the young man. He's very respectful. And so I'm lucky with that, because I remember when she first started liking boys, there was a couple of boys that were kind of around that I did not like, straight up. Like they were about to get knocked out. this close. So I feel very, very, very comfortable in the space that she's in right now. She's super responsible. And it can be difficult. You know, she has a little normal roll your eyes, 15-year-old attitude, but I'm a goofy dad already, so I'm always antagonizing her anyway. So I kind of understand when she gets frustrated. The hardest part for me is her becoming more independent, because I remember when she was little, she always wanted to be around me and her mom. Everywhere we went in the house, she followed. We were watching a movie, she was watching a movie. If we're eating, she's eating. And now sometimes, you know, we've been in the same house. I don't see her for like a day or two. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? Like, can we hang out? And she's like, no, I'm watching my show. I'm like, oh, do you want to do something later? She's like, no, I'm going with my boyfriend. So that's the hardest part for me, you know, not having my buddy to force watching Star Wars with and stuff like that. It's just kind of been, now I'm with my niece more often. And I force little Sophia to to watch stuff with me, because you know, Kaylee's kind of coming into her own, and
Yeah.
more of her time is occupied, and especially, you know, it's trying to keep friendships going for teenagers when they can't see each other. It's like, you know, I can't really get on her about being on her phone or being on Snapchat with her friends, because that's all they have really now. So that is kind of their only recreation, is to have, you know, those Apple chats with each other and stuff like that. So I kind of let her, because she does if it wasn't for that, she wouldn't be seeing anyone. So it's kind of just, those are the times.
What would you say was your philosophy in raising her? Because you're right. There's a relationship that you have, that the three of you have as a family. But what would you say, like, approaching that was your, just the way that, how did you approach parenting? I think that's what I'm asking.
My biggest thing has always been, and I think Marisol and Kaylee will say that, it's like, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm a very imperfect person, and I know that. One of the things I try not to be is a hypocrite. And even though sometimes I can be that, because when you're a parent, sometimes you have to tell them, because I said so, I'm not going to explain to you why I do this thing that I just told you not to do. But I don't want to be a hypocrite, because that irks me so bad. So I just always try to think, okay, when I was 10 years old, how did I feel when I did this or that, or wanted to do this or that, and my parents didn't let me? So I really try to think that through, and, you know, give her some leeway to, like, give feedback in a situation, not too much, but I always try to have an open mind, and I think that's worked out really well for us. Kaylee, one thing that I can say more than anything is that she's extremely honest, maybe to a fault sometimes, and she will not lie to us. You know, like when she had her first boyfriend, she came up and told me to my face. She's like, hey, I like this guy. He asked me, and he's my boyfriend now. Like, a lot of teenage girls would hide that, I think, from their dads and stuff. So I try not to be like the scary ogre dad that's going to, like, kill all her, because I know that if I push her away, that's going to put a hurt on our relationship, and then she's going to start doing things around my back. I never really wanted that. I always wanted honesty, because I know when I was a teenager, the girls that hated their dads were always the ones sneaking out the window. So that's what I was trying to avoid. I wanted to have an open, honest kind of relationship, so that if she does start liking boys and stuff, they can come through the front door, not the back door. And I always wanted to have an open flow of communication. You know, I was feeling or going through a lot of the same things that she's going through now, just 20 years ago. So like, it hasn't been like a huge gap in time. So that's my biggest philosophy, is try not to be a hypocrite, you know, say what I do and follow through on things, and not overreact. And that's kind of just something that I try to instill in myself on a day-to-day basis, just to keep a level head, not to have a bunch of highs and lows, just to be kind of consistent. And, you know, I don't really raise my voice a lot. I don't yell and scream. And that's, I think, has worked out, you know, to the benefit of the family, because I think she's a really, really good kid. So
yeah, she is. She absolutely is.
Yeah.
But I think also, you're, like you were mentioning earlier, you're transitioning into this different phase in your life. And so in a couple of years, you know, I'm sure she's going to have to pick up schools if she chooses to go away to school, hoping that everything gets back to a space where she can do that. And you guys will potentially be on your own. You have a big family. You guys have a big collective family. So I know you always have
Yes.
people up in your house,
Yes.
but where you don't have, where she'll be gone. So let's talk about that shift now that you had in work. So you
Yeah.
said you were laid off in November, you've been Uber and
Mhm.
Lyfting full time, but you talked about your podcast and you talked about like having this space and this opportunity to really focus on what you love. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, so I left my job, it's been a year when I left the education system. And I've never been happier in my work. There are things that I miss, but because I thoroughly enjoyed and appreciated my work with students and staff when I was with them every day, I miss it, but I am so happy and I feel so much freedom. I have a tremendous amount of work. Thankfully, I've been blessed with work, and I hope that that blessing continues. But it's just a different space. There's a different feeling of being able to do the work that you feel like you were meant to do. So let's talk about for you, like, what is that? What are the things that you're
Um,
meant to do that you've been working on?
yeah, so I'm still in the works of a podcast. COVID did put a damper on that because I was meeting up with three guys regularly, and that wasn't really, feasible in this situation. And I thought maybe we can make it work. I was like, it's just three of us, we can get together, still keep our distance. But realistically, when you're creating the podcast, you kind of want to have some real in-person one-on-one time because there's only so much stuff you can do on Zoom. At least for me, I'm a very visual, kinesthetic person, and I like to have that like on-site work. But one of basically our producer, the guy who knows the most about the technical aspects of, recording and videography, his sister became very ill. And I'm not 100% sure if she actually got COVID, but like we just kind of had to back off and put the brakes on stuff. We just now started talking about getting back to where we kind of left off. The name of the podcast is But I Digress. So we have social media to go with that. And it's a podcast that's going to span a couple different areas. All three of us are nerds from different combinations of ethnic backgrounds. My friend Daniel Christian, who's half Jamaican and half Jewish, which is a very eclectic mix right there. And then our other member is half Filipino and I think half white. So with the mix of the group, we have a lot of different political ideals and ethnic backgrounds that get poured into the same pot, but we're all nerds. So we're all into Star Wars and Marvel and all of that. So we have one pop culture media podcast where we just kind of discuss all of those nerdy things and go into in depth and favorite movies and movie reviews and things like that. And then we have another podcast that's more political, and it gives our different perspectives on current events. So obviously there's going to be, in the first couple episodes, there's going to be a lot of COVID talk. There's going to be a lot of, Black Lives Matter and social injustice talk. So that's going to be another one of our podcasts. And then we're going to have like a mishmash of video essays that we want to put together where it's more of a narrated 10-minute video where we discuss a specific topic. And then other things that interest us. So like, if sports ever come back, we're going to have a little sports segment that maybe works into our podcast or have a video essay on that. So it's just kind of covering a lot of bases until we find traction in one specific area, and then we'll maybe narrow it down if needed. But I'm kind of mirroring some of the other podcasts that I like that are conversational, kind of just like this, whereas there's not a whole lot of structure, but it's a good conversation that people might want to listen to or join in on. And that's much more rewarding to create something and have all of your creative energy poured into something and getting feedback on it and growing that, as opposed to working for a corporate cell and just being a little microbe in that cell and just watching the years go by, which is what I was doing, going on 11 years working at this real estate law firm that was really about the bottom line. And it's good. It's a good history to have. It's good on the resume and it's good experience that I've had. But after being there almost 11 years and then getting laid off and then starting to go full time with Uber and Lyft and making more doing that after working a lot
Wow.
of years at the firm doing Uber and Lyft. It kind of just opened my eyes to like, well, if I'm making more doing this and I don't have a boss and I don't have a schedule and I can take any day off, it's like, what am I even doing? You know? And
That is crazy.
yeah. And I wasn't working a minimum wage job. So for me to be making more at Uber and Lyft is kind of opened my eyes to like, you know, because there's always a stigma, right? There's a stigma like, oh, you know, I drive Uber, or like I do Postmates, and you're thinking, okay, well, this guy doesn't have his shit together, basically. Excuse my French. But I really realized that if I'm secure, then I don't need to care, because this gives me opportunity to work on my big idea, which is the podcast, and still support my family substantially. So it's been really good. I've been able to spend more time with Kaylee, my daughter, because when I was working at the firm, I do that 9 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday. And then most nights I would drive Uber part-time. So a lot of times I would be working, you know, 9 to 5 at my job. And then when I get to home till midnight, 1 a.m., and then I'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours and do it all over again. I was working 80 to 100-hour weeks regularly.
That is insane.
Yeah, it is. And I did that for probably 18 months because I was trying to save money, because I come from a family of two very hardworking parents and a dad who just saves. You know, Uncle Mike, he won't spend a dime on himself, but his bank account will be fat. So that was always what I was like trying to emulate and do for the family. But I was kind of working myself into the ground. And so it's kind of been refreshing where I can still provide stability, but still take a breather. And, you know, it's been good. And I think the future is bright. Once everything gets back to normal, we'll see.
So how have things been going with your Uber and your Lyft driving? And how has your work been impacted by COVID since March? What was it, March 13th?
Yeah. I remember it was like, the middle of March, March 15th, 16th, 17th. I remember it was like March 17th when things started to get shut down, like for real, and school got canceled. And me and Marty went to Walmart, and there was nothing on the shelves. And this is like the first panic, you know, when there was no toilet paper, obviously, but there was like no water, there was no chicken, there was nothing. And so we went to Vons. We were like, oh, maybe Vons won't be that bad. And there was nothing. So I was like, oh, we're in an apocalypse now. It's going to be canned food. So I was just grabbing stuff off the shelves like all the other crazy people. And at that point, I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, like with Uber or Lyft or anything. So basically, I was like, well, I'm not picking anybody up. I'll just do food deliveries because, you know, you don't really have to come in contact with too many people. That's what I was doing. But, you know, that did have an impact on overall daily dollar amount that I was taking home. But I was still making about 80% of what I would normally make. So because everyone was ordering food. In the beginning, it was real slow. But once everyone started being home and ordering food, it really, really picked up. And so it's been okay. Now it started getting back to where they're starting to put more systems in place and guidelines in place for the drivers and the passengers. So like you have to wear a mask now, both the driver and the passenger, if you're going to be in the car. And I know some drivers have like the plexiglass things they put in the car like you would get at the cabs, like in New York and stuff like that. I don't have all that, but you know, you have to have a mask. I don't take a lot of people anyways. I don't mostly do deliveries, and I've been able to still hit my bottom line that I'm trying to hit. But it's definitely a culture change. Having people in the car with masks on, you're always a little skeptical of what's going on. And then, you know, I'm, you know, driving for Uber, you deal with a lot of people, especially after hours, that are drunk. So they don't want to put their mask on, or they want to make special requests, or they want to talk to you like this close and stuff. So yeah, it's been an adjustment period, but I really honestly haven't been Ubering that much lately because I was taking some time to look at the podcast and focus on some other things, spend time with family. But I do it more part-time now, but coming up here pretty soon, I'm going to have to really hit the pavement like a full-time thing. So once I do that, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But I mean, it's a very interesting job. I've always been someone that likes dealing with people, but it's like, even if you like dealing with people now, it's not in your benefit. You know, my first jobs were in retail, working at the mall and different stores. So I'm not afraid to talk, but now I don't want to. I don't want people talking to me and breathing.
Now you're afraid to talk.
Yeah.
So have you had people that like have not wanted to wear masks, and are you, because in your business with both of those companies, you have the right to end the rides, right?
Oh,
like
yeah. And you know, most of the time, what I tell people, because a lot of times, just in general, they're like, oh, you drive Uber, crazy things happen to you. And it really isn't like that. 98% of people are normal. They just want to get in the car and get dropped off. You know, I would say 60 or 70% of people don't even want to talk. They just want to look at their phone. And I'm good at reading and sensing people. So if someone gets in and they're on their phone and they don't want to talk, I don't try to talk to them. Because if I was like that, I wouldn't want to be talked to. I don't want to be annoying and try to start up a conversation. So I read the person when they get in. Some people get in, their heads down. I don't say anything for the whole ride. I stay quiet. Hello, goodbye. Some people get in and they talk right away. They want to tell you the whole life story and get to know you and stuff. And then I talk to them. But there have been some people that have gotten in and I say, hey, do you have your mask? And they go, oh, no, let me go back in the house and get it. And I know they don't want to go get it, but they do. And people usually don't try me because I can just make this face like this and then, you know, and then they'll do it. People,
what was that face again? Let me see the face.
You know, I just had to I had to pull my black face out and then they just pause. But I had, the last time I was working a full day, I was downtown. This is when like downtown tried to semi-open back up the bars and stuff. And I picked up 3 girls that went to San Diego State out of the bar, and they were drunk. Mm-hmm. And they came out, you know, stumbling, and they're getting in one tried to get in the front seat. And the rule is you can't have any passenger in your front seat unless there are 4 people. And usually they try to limit those rides and try to tell people to break those rides into 2 cars. But there's only 3 of them. And one girl tried to sit in the front seat. I said, no, can you please sit in the back? And she was like, I know she kind of like took offense to that. And then they kind of had their mask around their neck. And I was like, you mind putting your mask on and stuff? And they're like, oh, because it was a hotter day. So I know that was irritating, but I was like, you know, I don't care. They're going to do what I say or they're going to get out. So we started driving, and then they're like talking to each other. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to go to this party and stuff. And they're like yelling in each other's face, and they pull the mask off because they really want to talk about Brandon and what he's going to do. And like, if he likes Shelly. And I'm like, can you please put your mask on? Because we're not all the way there yet. And we get into San Diego State, and they're like, you know, there's nothing to do. We should just throw a party tonight. And that really shows you that there really is multiple generational thoughts on what's happening right now. Like, I think people maybe in their early 20s to teenage years kind of had the idea, well, I'm young. I'm not going to get sick. Nothing's going to happen to me. This is just affecting old people. And I'm still going to party. I'm in college. My life's not going to change. Like, and I think that's how they're really living their life. And I think that's one of the very frustrating things on why we haven't conquered this yet, why this isn't already gone. Because if we really had everyone quarantining and taking all the precautions, this might be over already. But since you still have people that may be getting infected and not showing any symptoms, and then being cavalier about how they go around, they're going to infect people who are going to get sick. And that's one of the worst things about this pandemic is that one person will be fine and be positive for COVID, and then the next person gets it and dies. And that's so cruel, because if everyone got sick the same way, then everyone would be willing to take the same precautions. But since it affects, you know, statistically a small percentage, then people say, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. And I would say in the beginning, I was like, why is everyone overreacting? I was kind of one of those people like, this is, you know, less than 5%
like
of
the flu.
Right, exactly. Until a very close family friend of mine had his mother and his sister-in-law die in a 2 week period from COVID. And so that made it real for me. And it's sad that that had to make it real for me, but for a lot of people, it won't be real until it touches you. And even if it's not, have the respect for your fellow man. I think that's the most important thing. But, you know, it's just part of life that I think a lot of people are still getting acclimated to at this point.
Yeah, I think there's something about there's some social contracts, right? And in our, you know, the United States is a very individualistic society. So it's very much, you know, I think part of that it aligns with capitalism. Like I have the power to create the life that I want for myself and for my family. And if I don't do it, that's because I'm not doing what I need to do, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, in a collectivist society, the belief is really around, I do for the well-being of not just myself and my family, but of the general community, because when the community is better, then I'm better and my family is better. So it's just a different way. And what I've seen with, you know, with people not wanting to wear their masks or take care of each other, it's like there's not that belief that what they do impacts somebody else. And I think about, you know, when my girls started driving, I would pray for the other drivers. And I realized how much I trust strangers, the community, to drive safely, not just to keep themselves safe, but to keep my family safe. Right. And so like, and when that doesn't happen, it's like breaking a social contract that we are all in this together. And somebody had posted something about, like, because somebody wasn't behaving in class, like all of us got our recess taken away. And that's what it feels like. And I think also part of it is it's people just want to get back to normal. And I think that because they're not seeing the impact of COVID, or like you said, it hasn't touched them personally, there's kind of a belief that maybe it's not happening. And I know that also there's a lot of conspiracy theories around what's behind COVID and that it's not real. So I think there's just a lot. But I will tell you, I called my mom and Yoli in the beginning, and because they cannot stay home. Mm-hmm. They, you know, my mom and Yoli. Hi, Yoli. Hi, my Yoli's usually watching. And the thing that, like, I think I finally got through to them and Yoli, I was like, please stay home. She was like, you know, if it is my time and God wants me, then it's like, I'm good. And I was like, you don't understand. You will die alone. And it's not like any of us can be there with you. And I would not be able to be with you as you pass. Like, that's part of the thing. Like, this illness is nasty. Mm-hmm. The people that get sick and the ones that survive can have lifelong challenges with their health. I think their kidneys fail, some their livers, their lungs, like it is nasty.
Yeah. And I have asthma, you know, so that's a scare for me and Kaylee. We both have asthma, so that's why I've always kind of had to take it seriously. And like you were saying, my friend whose mother passed, he didn't get to see her, like you said, or be with her. And I can't imagine my mother falling ill with any disease and I can't be with her. You know, my grandmother passed almost 2 Septembers ago now. And, you know, being with her through that was very, very difficult for me because I never suffered a loss that great. And even the time that I had before that, in the years leading up before that, I kicked myself for not spending more time with her and doing more things with her because, you know, she's gone now. And she went from having this little steady decline to going off of a cliff at one point. And that time from it being a steady decline to the cliff, I felt like was way too sudden for me to where one day I was having conversations with her, then for this last 2-week period, she was unconscious. And I had so many things to say. I had so many questions to ask her I didn't get to do. So if a relative of mine got COVID but was still conscious, but I couldn't be around them or with them in their last time on this earth, I mean, I couldn't imagine what it's like to go through that. And like you said, I think social media, even though it is great for so many things and so many movements, and it's a great voice for the people, it's also a very, very terrible thing. Social media, and there's so many conspiracies, and everyone can just spew out garbage. And there's a lot of gullible people out there. And I really wonder if social media didn't exist in the way it does today, if we were just relying on major news outlets, even though those can't always be trusted, would people be taking this more seriously? Would there be so much dissent? You know, if only we were getting our news from, CNN and Fox News, and they were giving us updates on COVID, would there be this mass conspiracy going around? Would we already be done with this? Because if the news is telling you there's a virus out there, it's very contagious, people are dying from it, and there's no social media for people to have their little individual counterpoints, maybe this wouldn't even be happening. But then you start to have that conversation, and it's like, well, I don't want to get rid of social media. You don't want to cut out voices that do need to be heard that wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity. So it's just a situation where I just say to people, please be smart, take things with a grain of salt, do your research, take notes from people who know what they're talking about, not your uncle who lives by himself in a basement, because that's the problem. So many people are saying, well, if you put herbs in your mattress, then you're not going to get sick and everything's fine. And it's just very, very scary with that, because some people really are susceptible to seeing things on social media and then putting them into practice and reality, and or not thinking that the mask is important. I just watched something recently about masks that I didn't even know. Wearing the mask is not to protect you as an individual from the disease. Unless you have a gas mask or like a real N95, the cloth mask that most everyone has to go to the store and back, they don't protect you individually from COVID. It's supposed to be a herd immunity. So everyone wears a mask, they can't spread it. That's what it's about. And so, yeah, if everyone feels fine and one person that feels fine is actually sick and they don't have a mask on, and they're spreading it by breathing and coughing and stuff, that's an issue. But if everyone has their masks on, even though it's not protecting everybody, it is preventing it from being spread. And people just have to think of it that way. Like, I may feel fine, I may be okay, but it's a disease where I could have it and not know it, so let me just wear my mask. And that's really what it has to be. And people don't understand it that way. They want to say, I'm not afraid of getting sick. It's not about you being afraid of being sick because you're young and healthy. You can have it right now. And so that's, I think, where people got to kind of understand, like, it's about a collective thing we're trying to do here.
Yeah. It's a group assignment that we are failing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a group assignment that we are failing. I just saw, I think it was the New York Times article that said, of course, we're absolutely, like, we're the only, I don't think they said first world country, but I think that's what they meant, that is continuing to increase. We're the only one.
Americans, that's America for you. You're not going to tell us what to do.
These are not the statistics I want to be number one in the world, and Daniel, my husband, he keeps a close eye on things because he works for the county. He's a social worker. And so he's always, like, he's on the county website to see what's happening. And right now the state is still having them go into people's homes and doing visits. That had stopped for a long time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he had shared with me that the state of Florida is outpacing, is like if it was a country, would be the number one country as far as the increase in cases, and I believe also in deaths. And Disney World is still open.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, they opened.
Did it close at some point, or did it just reopen and close?
It reopened, and even with these numbers, it's still open.
Man.
Even with the increase, I think he told me yesterday, they had 15,000 cases in one day. And San Diego hasn't had, I don't think, 15,000 cases total. But that's also one of the other issues is, I think, travel, is that even within the US, people are trying to still go on vacations and go infecting places. I had read that Corpus Christi had very few cases, and they allowed people to come into their city, and now they're struggling.
Yeah.
They're absolutely struggling.
Yeah. I mean, like you said before, it sucks to be stuck inside. And I know that hurts on many levels, whether it is you can't go to work and provide for your family,
Yeah.
because, not everybody can hit the unemployment parameters, or they don't want to take unemployment, they want to work. And not being able to do that in many cases is really, really hard. And I don't want to be the person to say, oh, just stay home. And like, not everybody has savings. Not everybody has two people working in the household. So it's not easy to say. And then, just for your mental health, it's not good to be inside all the time. So I get and understand people's frustrations, but it's one of those things, like you said, it's a group assignment. And if everyone or most of everyone does what they're supposed to do, then we could be done with it, and then things could go back to normal. But as long as, 30-40% of the people that just don't believe it or don't want to listen do what they want to do, there's going to be clusters that pop up, and then people are going to get sick. So that's like the frustrating thing. I mean, I think at this point, I don't know of that America, I'm number one, I'm the best, I don't need to listen to anybody thing is going to go away, and we're just going to need to get a vaccine, and that's the only way we're going to conquer this thing. Because it seemed like for a while back in March and April, like everyone was it was like kind of like when 9/11 happened, we were all in this together, and everyone kind of was like, it's us against this one thing. And then people started getting bored, and people's money started to run out, and it's just kind of,
Well, I think that one of the core things that we don't talk about enough, and I really believe this, I think that my belief in life is that I really want to continue to grow and evolve and become the best version of myself. And with that, I don't want to be unhappy. And there are people, though, who I believe are unhappy. I was watching a lot of the videos of the white women who they refer to as Karen, the Karen videos. And a lot of them seem
Marisol
like
loves those videos. She's always showing me those.
a lot of them seem like they're inebriated. They seem like they're drunk. There's some slurred speech in some of them, but that to me then goes again back to a potential like unhappiness. And I think sometimes people, we continue to remain in relationships that we're not happy with. Maybe we are not, putting the efforts that we need to in with our parenting. And so then you get stuck in the house, with people that, and in relationships that are very tense and are very hard. And I think that that's another piece, is that there are a lot of unhappy people. There are people that are not doing their work to evolve. They're not being reflective. They're not taking, and I think that impact, that's part of this impact. I just don't know how to measure that.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, even being home, we have two renters living with us that are family, and Kaylee and me, so we're a full house. So there's people here, and there's only so many rooms that you can go into. But I think we all get along very well, and everyone in here likes watching movies and Netflix and Disney Plus. So that's what we've been kind of doing, and trying to get out for walks, or trying to get takeout, but maybe eat it outside. But it kind of is what it is. I'm not gonna be the one to try to force going back to a bar and only have my mask off when I'm not taking a drink, type of thing. Like, I don't understand what's the rush. I mean, I'm not really missing it that bad where I need to be out, shoulder to shoulder with people. So it, to each their own, kind of. But like you said, we need to kind of think of each other a little bit more than I think we have.
So our time is coming to a close. I'm so happy that we had this time together, because I, when I had started the show, I kept telling myself, I want to invite, because I love talking to you. I want to invite Ryan. But I wanted to give you one last, when is your podcast? Like, what are you thinking? And when, is there a timeline that you're hoping to get started? If somebody wants to connect with you about it.
I actually want to get it up and running, I would say by the end of August, but I'm just going to probably say fall now, just because there's so many things going on with wanting to get together and get the equipment that we need and stuff like that. But I'm pushing myself to kind of get back on a regular schedule. But I think end of August, early September is something where we're going to actually have regular uploads. If you go to But I Digress on YouTube or Instagram, you could probably see sporadic things in the next couple of weeks as far as stuff being uploaded, but consistently uploaded, I would say probably early fall. And it'll be a lot of this. And there's some really, really, really sharp voices on there. Hopefully I'll have you on at some point, so I can steal some followers from you.
So the name of the podcast is But I Digress.
Exactly. But I digress, because we can't stay on topic. This was me and my best friend, Daniel. I think he DJed for you one time. So we have these kind of rambling conversations, and we're always digressing off the point. So that's kind of the name that we came up. So
thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad you thought of me, because I'm not really doing anything. I'm not a big social media person. I'm actually trying to having to evolve and make myself more present on social media. So I think this is a good first step, because it's so dirty sometimes. I don't even want to get involved in it.
I know.
But
generate
knowing
good
that I'm trying to start a podcast, I need to get used to that.
Yeah.
So
generate good stuff. You can generate good stuff. The thing I wanted to tell you, there is a podcast called 8 Black Hands, and I believe that they do it all from different cities. Yeah. So just something to think about. And I know that there are a lot of podcasts that do that, but just in case this time continues, there are people that have been successful. It's not the ideal for you, but I think it's something that can be done.
Oh yeah, I know it can be done remotely and everything, and we need to get that done. I think the two other guys that I'm working with were very much like hands-on, so this has all been jarring for us. So we just need to get past that and move on to the next thing. But when it's up and running full steam, I'll try to get back on here for a little segment or something like that and promote.
That would be awesome. You could have all three of you on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay, good night. I'm going to say good night from here. So good night, everybody. Thank you for being with us. As a reminder, Dr. Anjali will be with you on Friday. Same time, same channel. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.